Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. It has been a long time since I've been sat in front of this microphone. Well, maybe like 10 days.
Feels like a long
But
time.
still, yeah, it feels like ages. This week, we wanted to talk all about content creation and becoming a content creator, and more specifically, how to build up your confidence as a creator and make time to actually turn something you feel like doing into potentially a full-time gig, a full-time hustle, or even just start it as a side hustle. Because I think a lot of people just well, I did for a long time. I was just kind of like happy in the zone of it being a side hustle, but I knew that what I was doing at my full-time job wasn't something that I was going to be happy with doing full-time for a long time. So even though I knew that my side hustle of content creation wasn't maybe going to be my full-time thing, I knew it was closer to my full-time thing, and I just lacked that confidence to take the leap. And I know confidence is something you've been speaking about a little bit online as well, Farah, in terms of where confidence actually comes from and like how to build it. And I think as a content creator, or maybe even more, like if we expand that a bit more, as a self-employed person or an entrepreneur or anyone who's just working outside of the confines of a 9 to 5, there's a lot that you have to get by yourself. Like there's a lot you have to build by yourself. You don't really get like instructions or a structure or like check-in points and like someone reviewing your progress on something. So it's a lot harder to build skills, build confidence, and like do things by yourself. So we can talk a little bit about that, I think, this week. So you guys hopefully know by now that like me and Farah had our 9 to 5s in corporate, and we're both kind of full-time running businesses, doing content creation. And was content creation and influencing the same thing, do you think?
Kind of, but also not really. Like you can be a content creator without being an influencer, I think.
Oh yeah, because especially with like UGC and stuff now you can. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
definitely. So content creation, influencing. Let's talk about the confidence part, because I feel like you can't actually do something wholeheartedly if you're also not confident in it. And I'll pass the mic over to you because I feel like you have a lot more fresh advice on this, and then I can also talk about how to build confidence, I think, especially in the realm of content creation.
Yeah. So I think the only reason that you think that is because I've actually seen quite a few videos recently on my For You page and things talking about like a new perspective of confidence that I'd not really heard before. And it's the idea that confidence isn't so much like a feeling, or it's not something that you set out to grow itself and you focus on the confidence. It's really like you have to grow that confidence by practicing and being competent in what you're trying to be confident in. So I feel like it's just a shift in focus. And this is something that I wish I knew earlier on, because I used to be that girl that was so focused on like being not confident in certain things, and whether that's being confident in front of the camera, being confident to put yourself out there in the first place, being confident enough to let people know that this is you and this is what you want to do and this is actually an interest of yours, when it was something back then that was so new and odd to a lot of people. There's so many things that you feel like you're not confident in, but realistically, the only reason that you don't feel confident in something is because you've not done it enough times. And I feel like the more often that you do something, the more competent you become in that thing because you've practiced it enough to be better at it, which means then you grow confidence as a result of that. So the confidence is a result rather than like that thing you need to do almost. And like, yes, you can strive for the confidence, but the focus has to be elsewhere, which is on you actually becoming competent in that thing. So that's what I've learned recently. And I think in a content creation sense, if you are someone that's trying to get into content creation, maybe you're too shy to even talk to a camera and actually, come across confidently on camera, because I feel like that is a bit of a skill. But in the same way as anything else, the more you do that, the more you sit in front of the camera, uncomfortably or not, the more comfortable you will become at doing it. And then the more you do it, the more confident you will come across on camera, because it will feel normal to you at that point. I still remember the days where I would look into my camera lens and I'd be like, there's no one there. Like, how am I meant to talk to this thing? And I was like, it's almost like you feel like there's eyes on you, but they're not on you in that moment. So then you feel that bit of nervousness that people are eventually going to watch you and know that you're recording yourself. And there's that whole uncomfortable, like, overthinking that you can do in the beginning. But the more you do it, the more you just don't even, like, all those thoughts go out the window, and you just, it's like a switch flicks in your brain and you're just like, okay, now I'm recording this thing, now I'm going to talk. And you end up just talking as if you would talk to a normal person. And it's so common these days. And you touched on the point of, like, nobody really tells you how to do X, Y, and Z, or nobody really actively guides you in the process. No, they don't. But I feel like these days there is so much more, like, free information and guidance, and, like, just people online talking about their experiences just like we are, and do a lot of the time. There's a lot of people that actually offer so many tips and resources and advice online. So I would lap all that up. Like, it is free information, and I feel like maybe even 5 years ago we didn't have access to any of that. It was just new and weird and just a strange thing to do. But these days it's so common that there are people out there that are giving sound advice on, you know, how to create a video with a good hook, and how to, you know, like, get people's attention, or what the trending sounds to use. Like, there's so many accounts out there. So I feel like if you are wanting to take it seriously and you are wanting to put your best foot forward, you don't necessarily have to do all the research yourself. You do just have to show up authentically as you. And the only way you can do that is to make sure you're as confident as possible in front of the camera, which then leads into the tip I shared about becoming more competent and just repeatedly doing it until you feel like that. But what are your confidence tips? How would you approach it now?
I think just to add more to what you've said about, like, doing it more, if I think back to my first ever YouTube video, I remember that awkwardness of, like, setting up the camera in front of me, talking to it and being like, this is really weird.
What am I doing?
Exactly. And I still feel that now, but my confidence has come from the fact that, like, even though I feel awkward as soon as I set the camera up and start talking to it, I've been doing it now for 4 years. So that momentary feeling of awkwardness is completely overshadowed by the fact that I know once I start speaking for like 30 seconds, I'm fine. And also doing something more often in your head, it gives you like that feeling of like, okay, I am this person that I am a content creator. I'm not trying to be a content creator, because I think that's the part that maybe people would struggle with if they want to do something. In their mind, they're trying to be this thing that they're not, and that itself can set you back. So I feel like even faking it a little bit, and I think that would be my tip, is that like you actually don't need to be doing something for ages to be something. Like, I don't need to have knitted 1,000 beanies to then call myself a knitter. Once I have those wee things, I don't even know what they're called. Once I have those
needles.
Needles. Once I have those needles and I have a little knitting kit in my possession, I am a knitter. And in the same way, if you have a phone with a camera on it and you have filmed a video, you have created content. You're a content creator. And like, I don't think we need to overthink like our expertise level at things before we're able to start confidently producing and also labeling ourselves as content creators as well. I think I really struggled with that at the beginning, and even at the beginning of this year, I used to think, oh, I haven't like blown up anywhere, I haven't hit any kind of like milestone numbers, I'm not a content creator, I'm not an influencer yet. But actually most people, like, I have friends who influence me all the time. They don't have online profiles. They are 100% an influencer. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, I think we can take definitions of things to be quite loose. And like, I think that really helps when, especially if you're trying to become a content creator and like it's a relatively new thing to do. So, and when I say new, I mean like it's still like when I still had my 9 to 5 and I was doing this on the side, I didn't know anyone else like in my specific like physical environment who was doing what I was trying to do. So in that sense of the word, I think it's like a relatively new thing to do. So I feel that also makes it a little bit easier to like be that person who is creating content. Like for me, I was the only content creator in my like friendship group, so it's like I could own it a bit more, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't feel like you're comparing yourself to anyone, you're comparing yourself to loads of people who don't do it, so therefore it's easier to like stand up and show up as that person who does it. But I think another thing I really want to talk about is also like how to actually become a content creator if you're not really in like that space to begin with. So okay, we have zero confidence creating content, but we know that now as soon as we start and like post that first thing or even create that first draft, we are building that confidence and we're able to show up as that content creator. But how can we like make the time if we already have something else going on and taking up the majority of our like of our days and weeks? Because I think I only got to grips with like a timetable and a structure of how to post online in the last 2 years, I would say, compared to the first 2 years of actually starting my profiles and posting on social media. Um, are there any kind of like learnings that you can give our audience on? Is there a structured way that you would approach content creation if you're doing it outside? Like if you were still working in consulting and you were doing it on the side, is there a structured way you do it these days?
Yeah, so while I was working, I think my content, because I actually started creating content online before I started my full-time job, I was at uni. And then that was when I had a lot more free time. And then when I transitioned into full-time work, I totally like lost that free time altogether, especially with studying while still full-time working. So I feel like I had a natural like transition of content online where I would like fuse it with what I was doing day to day. Like I tried to incorporate more lifestyle elements into my content because that was the only way that it was sustainable for me. So in the same way, if you've got a really busy job, like bring that into your content. You don't necessarily have to have them like super separate unless you actively want to. But I saw this post online the other day and it literally said like it was like a POV post and it was like literally like realizing anything is content, and it was this girl and she just propped up her phone while she was actually working like on a computer in the office, and that was her video. Like the you've really got to strip back like the idea of having this like studio space where you're then going to go and film and like this really well crafted, well scripted video. Like content these days isn't really like that anymore. And yes, there is an element to it where that's appropriate and that would be cool. But realistically, like you could film your content on your commute to work. You could film yourself at your desk working during the day, whether you're at home or in the office, and slap some text on it that's relevant to like what you want to talk about on your page and post it. And you don't necessarily have to talk to the camera at that stage. I actually realized quite a long way into my TikTok journey, I hadn't posted a single video of me talking for like 2 years straight. And I didn't actually clock that because I was very much focused on like makeup stuff at the time. And so I would just have a song playing in the background while I was doing my makeup, or I was never talking through anything. Or if I jumped on trends, it was usually a lot of lip syncing. So, and it got to a point where I remember I did my first talking video and I had streams of comments in my comment section saying, "You're British?" Like everyone thought I was from America because I would always like, if I was ever talking, it would be lip syncing an American like person speaking or a song or something. And not to say that's like a good approach, because I do definitely think you should mix in your own like personal voice and your opinion on things. And that's something that I started to do a lot later. But all I'm saying is it was took such a long time for me to even realize that that was my strategy. It wasn't like on purpose. But if you are the type of person that genuinely doesn't have time to go and sit down and film a video like talking to the camera, there are other ways that you can still delve into this content creation space and not have to do that. And I think that also is probably the best way that I would suggest getting into it to begin with, because you I feel like when you also start a page to begin with, nobody really knows you or your voice or anything about you particularly to like hook them into the video. You know, like if you've got a well-established page and you've got these millions of followers, people just want to listen because it's you. But you don't really have that kind of attraction when you're first starting out. So even if you are making videos, or it's a bit of a like a b-roll clips of you doing stuff but not you necessarily like having to sit down in front of the camera, that's not going to harm your page. I feel like it was just a nice way for you to get to grips with even using TikTok and being a creator on the platform versus consuming content. You also get to think more about your niche and like what you want to actually like, what captions you want to write, like what kind of target audience you want to target when you're posting things. And you can definitely do that without, you know, like fully like talking to the camera. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, would you have a different approach?
No, I think that's like quite a good point to couple up with like, so what I'm going to say is when you're early stages of wanting to become a content creator or like early stages of even posting content, I think it's like prime time data collection time. And like you can collect data from what you post regardless of like what actual content is in the content that you're posting. So even if you're not talking to the camera, those videos are still going to perform in a certain way, and like you, or videos or posts or whatever it is that you're actually posting, those things are going to perform in a certain way that you can definitely get some feedback from that. So I think that's a great point to couple up with this. It's like it doesn't actually matter whether you're talking to the camera or not. Those early stages, I think, is a great time to like post anything and everything that you're maybe interested in, at the same time as like leveraging what you already do, if that's what you want to do, in terms of like, okay, you don't have to make anything wildly different in terms of if you have a 9 to 5 but you don't, or you have a lot going on in your life and you don't actually have time to think about a separate thing you want to post about, it's cool just like posting about your actual life and then seeing what your audience actually likes. So if it is the fact that you gym a lot and you only have time to like record yourself at the gym or something, and that and those videos are actually like well liked by your audience, then you know that like maybe gym and fitness content is going to do well, so you can just like post more about that. And then vice versa, if it doesn't do so well, you can just be like, okay, I'll post about something else. And I think the same applies to like if you have topics that you know you want to post about, just posting about them and then seeing the response you get back from that. Like not so much analyzing specific metrics of things that you're posting, but literally just gauging like, is this getting any comments or 1 comment or 10 comments, or are people like responding to my stories when I post about this certain topic? Like that's stuff that I literally like not track, but I definitely have an idea of like, if I post about like specific things, I know I get a lot of people asking me questions about that. Like ironically for me, when I post about like anything to do with living in Scotland, I get a lot of like not well engagement or questions and stuff like that about life in Scotland, whereas like when I'm in London, I post as if I'm just in London. People assume I live there and I get like no engagement. It's really weird. Like that's like a really weird like side note. But that's how I kind of understand and analyze the response back from what I post. So I think it's a really good thing to like take advantage of that when you're kind of early on in like a content creation journey, because you can just post about anything and just like see what sticks almost, which sounds like messy advice, I think, but I think it's a really great time to be that person who's just posting a lot about a lot of different things, because then you can figure out, okay, when you figure out what sticks, that's when you like double down, and then that's when you like build your presence, because that's what people say, isn't it? Like I feel like people always say if you want to grow a page or you want to grow like as a content creator, you have to pick a niche and stick to it. And I feel like that advice really held me back at the beginning, because I was like, I don't know what my niche is. And also my niche, even if I knew, my personal preferences on my niche kept changing because my own hobbies and likes and dislikes were changing, because I was in my early 20s. So I was like changing myself anyway. So it's harder to think, oh my God, I now need to pick a niche that's going to determine all the money I'm going to earn, all the brands that could potentially reach out to me, anything I want to do from now on has to be within this like tiny little bucket on the slice of the internet. It's like a very overwhelming piece of advice, I think. But it's really important to explore everything before you pick that niche. And also you have time to, because like, Farah, how long have you been, like, would you say you've been in the content world, like including your time at uni with YouTube and stuff?
Oh, I feel like since the very beginning, that was 2017 maybe, so like 7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was
It's
right
longer
at the
than your
beginning
job.
though. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so I started way
Oh,
before my job.
still, right at the beginning means the beginning.
Yeah, but obviously not the level that I'm doing it now. Like TikTok didn't even exist back then.
Yeah.
So it was very different.
Well, would you say in 7 years, like how soon into 7 years did you figure out what like your niche was, or where you felt like you knew what kind of content creator you were?
This is a thing. I feel like I was the same where I couldn't pick a niche. Like I think I very much started with the general like fashion, beauty, lifestyle, but that even that's not a single niche. It was very, I'd say fashion and makeup was like what I started with. And I feel like, yeah, there's kind of specific niches. But like I said before, like it evolved because I was evolving as a person. Like I couldn't remain
Yeah.
doing that when I simply didn't have the time for it, but I still wanted to create content. So then I turned it more into lifestyle. And lifestyle is so broad. You can literally do what on earth you want. And then I started doing more vlogs on like my YouTube versus, you know, sit down makeup tutorials, because that took more time out. Whereas I could physically just do what I'm doing during the week and take a camera along with me. So it didn't really then take extra time out of my day, except for like all the editing and back end that comes with, you know, uploading online anyway. But I had to evolve my content. And even now, like I still will have times where I'm like, okay, well, do I want to focus more on this now? And I don't think that'll ever go away. I feel like the nice part of like not, I really commend people that can actually stick to a niche. I don't know if it's a personality thing or like I am so indecisive that I will never be able to just be like, okay, this is what I'm going to post about online and this is the only thing I want to talk about, and I'll find a million and one ways to say the same thing, but I physically can't do that. And I get bored very easily, and I think the whole point of me starting social media was like I had so much more to say and like so much more that I wanted to share with other people aside from just the stuff I was doing day to day, like in my corporate job and stuff. And because I felt so, you know, like bucketed in the sense that I got my corporate job and that was ticking a checkbox, like I didn't want to force myself into doing that online as well, when that was meant to be like my space to be free and, you know, do what I want. So I never really was super harsh on myself on picking a niche, and I don't really think you need to. I feel like, to be honest, if you think of it from a money sense, first of all, you probably would benefit more from picking a niche, because when you think about monetizing your platform, I think you will end up being like an expert in an area. So if you are very much focused on, I'm making money from this and this is like my goal, you would benefit more from, say, being known as like the makeup girl or like the girl that, you know, posts petite clothing, for example, because then any brand that aligns with that audience, you're going to have a very, very specific audience that is going to follow you. And any brand that wants to work with you that aligns with what you're posting about, they will pay you more for that. Then you do narrow down who works with you because of the fact that you've picked a specific niche. Whereas a nice part of being a bit more broad is that you get different collaborations and different types of brands that you can work with. So there's pros and cons to it, but for me it's worked best that I've been as broad as I wanted to be throughout. And I feel like also there's a lot of pressure put on, like, okay, well, I've picked a niche now, I have to stick with it for the rest of my life. The same way a job, like you can leave, you can change it up, you can switch careers, like you can change your niche if you want to. And I definitely have done that a couple of times. Like I didn't start off posting about personal finance and any kind of stuff like that. I only started doing that once I bought my property, and then I actually had a lot to say on that topic. But prior to that, I had nothing to really say because I literally just got my first full-time job. So it'll be so dependent on like where you are in life and the experiences that you've had, and that will grow as you grow. So I think in general, don't stress about picking a niche so much unless you have this big goal of, okay, well, I want to make money from traveling the world. So it wouldn't make sense for you in that case to start posting about, I don't know, your what's in your makeup bag. I mean, that might tie into it in some form, but if you want to be very specific and you have that goal, then go for it. But if you aren't sure, I think you don't need to pressure yourself. I don't think it's needed.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're not sure, I feel like indecisiveness is a blessing in disguise because it means you can try everything.
Yeah.
And I think you've done a really good job of like building your or like creating content around you rather than like topics. And that's what like I wished I could do when I first started. I was like, I would love for me to be the niche. And
Yeah.
like that's something that does come with time. So you've been creating content like from beginning to end, well, beginning to now, you've been doing this for 7 years. So in those 7 years, people know you, what you like to talk about, and how like whether your interests change or not, people are in it because of you rather than like the things you speak on. And that comes with time. So if you want to create content simply around you, your likes, dislikes in your life, I think that has to come with the acceptance that like the growth will take time because that's just natural. I think unless you're like the next Alex Earl or something like that, I think the commitment that you need to like continue creating the content and have faith that like no matter what you post, there's someone out there who's going to be like, oh yes, like completely relate to that. I'm going to follow this girl. That's going to happen and it's going to compound over time. It's kind of like investing, I think, with if you want to build like a content creation platform around you rather than like a specific niche. And I think I did that the wrong way round. So like I started with money because money was something that was like prevalent for me at the time, because when I started all my channels I was in credit card debt and I was trying to get out of it, and I was trying to buy a flat and all this kind of stuff. So for me it was like the natural thing that I had like a lot to say on, whereas now it's like I still have a lot to say on that, but I speak on so many other things that I think impact money, and I'm attracting people to my profiles who have started to take an interest in like the way I do things rather than the information I provide or like the things I specifically speak on. And that's just come with time. So that's taken 4.5 years for me. So I think accepting that like things take time is a really big part, I think, of content creation, and probably just like running a business or being self-employed. I think that's the whole, I can't expect overnight success with these kinds of things. As well, I think the biggest success in becoming a content creator is getting that first post out there, because the confidence, you having a niche, all of that doesn't exist without your work
Yeah.
being online.
If you're not posting, yeah, none of that even matters. I have a question for you. So, in terms of the engagement, when you're getting engagement online, I don't know if you've seen it already, but there's this trend, and there's a name for it. I think it's called rage baiting. It's basically when you deliberately do something wrong in your video, or like you spell something incorrectly for the purpose of people then commenting, oh, this is wrong in your video, or like you've done this. And like basically the more comments that you get, the better your video does, because people are engaging with it. TikTok thinks this is on a TikTok sense. It probably works the same on Instagram, to be honest. But the more comments and the more interaction, the better the algorithm thinks your video is doing and thinks people are resonating with it, and then it blows it up. And this is actually a strategy that I've realized, social media managers and people that actually give an advice on to brands and things, and helping people grow their pages. This is one of the pieces of advice that they give. Piece of advice that they give to people to grow their page or create viral videos. They say to deliberately do something incorrect, not like give incorrect information, but like spell something incorrectly, or say if it's a makeup thing, like wear a product incorrectly. Because there's been a few instances where people have actually grown an entire brand and blown up their platform just by doing something wild, like the girl that wore foundation with her fingers, like she would like put it on with her fingers like that. I can't remember her name now, but now she has like this long-standing career, TikTok career, and it's huge, all because of that one thing that people couldn't get out of their heads and were like became a trend. And so what do you think of that and the whole idea of like rage baiting people to get engagement, as someone that's starting social media and like maybe hearing things like this and thinking, is that like how I need to grow my page?
I think the misinformation part is a bit
No,
like I wouldn't do that.
not
Yeah.
misinformation. It's more a case of just like getting something wrong in your video, not the information, but like the
Doing
around
something
it.
wrong.
Yeah, just to, you know, bait people into
Yeah,
commenting,
bait
basically.
people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm like too scared sometimes because so what I do with that is like if I'm editing a video and I've noticed I've said something wrong or I've spelt something wrong, I like I've done the initial thing I've done by accident, but the fact I then go ahead and still post it anyway, I do that on purpose.
Do you do
So
that? Because I
there's
can't.
a lot of my videos where like I'll say stocks and shares ISA and then this is so minor and it captions it wrong as stocks and chairs. And then there's been a couple times where like I will call it out in the comments and people think it's funny and I just think like that's funny. And
Yeah.
because we're not talking about the video, we're talking about the fact that we're talking about stocks and chairs instead of stocks and shares. So
Yeah.
that's super minor,
Yeah.
but it's a tiny bit of engagement.
I feel like, yeah, that's totally harmless. And most of it is like very harmless stuff. Like the ones I've seen are just so like, because people get riled up about the littlest things online. So it's very, very easy to bait people into like commenting and being like, you're wrong. Like, why did you do it like this? But I don't know. I feel like I'm the type of person that if I notice I've done something wrong in a video, I have to correct it. Like, it's just in me to like, I can't post it without knowing that it's wrong. I don't know. It's that perfectionist nature maybe, but I feel like that's almost something I want to try because like I've seen it works, but I can't. Yeah, haven't been able to allow myself to like be publicly wrong, knowing that I've done something wrong.
Yeah, I think I'm the same as you, where like I don't know if I would be able to like mentally handle it if I
People telling
purposefully
you,
did something. Yeah, like people like calling me out and stuff like that. But also I think there's maybe like a slight danger with like if you overdo it, like that makeup person you were talking about. Like if you're doing something specifically in every single video to the point where you become known for doing it, I don't know if that's something like I think it just depends on what it is because I think with content creation, you're building something that's on the internet and the internet is literally forever. So I think in that sense, while yes, like you don't have to be so perfectionist and you have to like just post and like do all these things we were talking about in earlier in the episode, I think it's also important to think ahead about like everything you post is going to be associated to you and your brand and how you make money potentially in the future. So I would be like careful about what you associate with yourself. And like doing your makeup wrong is very minor, I guess, but doing things that are kind of extreme to rage bait people, I think my fear in my head would be like I would start to be known for that and like the rage baiting and like doing things wrong rather than like things I talk about or like things I want to talk about in the future, if that makes sense. So I think that's my only worry with rage baiting. It's like not knowing how far it could go and how far people would take it and like associate it to me forever.
yeah, I feel like you'll very easily get labeled online as like the girl that X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So, and you can't really come away from those labels a lot of the time. So, yeah, you do have to. But I think in the sense where, like, what I'm picturing is like very, very minor stuff like spelling something wrong or things like
Yeah,
that,
that I
which
think that's
is so
okay.
normal. Yeah.
Is that what you're
But
gonna
I
think?
think
Is that what you're thinking about doing?
not me.
Eh?
Kind of. There's this video that I've seen that is trending at the moment, and I wanted to do it. And I because I know that this is a trend now, and I know like how social media people think. Because I'm still learning so much all the time. Like I never even knew this was a thing until very recently, and now I'm clocking how many people do this on purpose, and I never knew that they were doing it on purpose. I thought it was a genuine mistake. And it's like little things like doing trends but then getting them wrong, as people are doing them wrong on purpose because they want to be called out in the comments. to be told they're doing it wrong, because that drives the engagement and the views of their video. And I've seen this particular trend come up recently, and it's very easily done wrong. And I've seen people like get that traction from it. But then I'm like, to me, it's just so pointless though at the same time, because you're literally just doing it for the views at that point. You're not like adding any value, or
That's the thing. Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I'm just like, well, and I try my best, like with my own content strategy, I will do a lot of like, I really want to provide value, and I really want to be that like girl that people, like other girls can come to her page and like feel reassured, or feel like they can relate to someone, feel like they can actually get something from my page, rather than just like trending videos and random stuff all the time. But I still will embed trending, like funny, maybe just things that are, you know, basically trending stuff into it as well, because I just think that's the good balance of, you know, you're getting traction to your page whilst also, because a lot of the time maybe the other like more in-depth videos that you're going into a topic, they don't always gain that like virality, but they'll have that small community of people that actually relate to it and that will engage with it. So I think it's good to have a balance, and I do try to do that. But then sometimes, then when I'm thinking about this strategy in particular, I'm just like, but if my aim of only doing that is literally just to, but then the whole point of being online is to grow your views, right? Like,
well, I think it's just like taking that balance, like you say, the balance of videos, and seeing like, does that tally up for you specifically? So like I've seen social media managers and like social media experts say there's like funnels, maybe not funnels, but there's like a pyramid of the categories of posts that you need to make. And like the top pyramid is like the top part of the pyramid is like content that you post that like gets as many people's eyes on your page as possible. Then the middle piece of content that you post on that pyramid is like, okay, once the eyes are on your page, how do they stay there? Like, how do they get to know you? And then like the base of the pyramid is like, okay, these are the specific things that speak to like your values that then like a very niche group of people will actually relate to because they're specific things. So it's like, okay, you grab the eyeballs, you get the eyeballs there, and then only a few of those eyeballs will stay because they actually connect with you. And I think with the content that gets like as many eyeballs as possible on your page, that needs to be like few and far between, because you need to just like sprinkle that in your content, especially if your personal goal is like, okay, I want to be someone that gives people value and like that girls come to for support and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, they're not like, if girls land on my page and all they see is the content that is getting eyeballs via like trends and rage baiting, they won't stay because that makes up all of your content, right? So I think it's about like, if you take like for every 10 videos, 2 have to be trend or viral kind of videos, 5 have to be talking about like more specific things, and like, what's 5 plus 2 minus 10? 3.
7. That's minus
3, yeah. 3 videos then have to be like you speaking on like super specific topics. So I think if one of them, like if one video you post is like a rage baiting video, that'd be quite, I think that's fine. You know, I'm excited to see this, by the way. I don't know if anyone's listening, you can kind of watch out for Farah trying this trend wrong.
I kind of want to say it, but then I'm like, if I do it, then people are going to know that I've done that on purpose.
I think it's funny. I think you should comment something specific if you see this.
Yeah.
Wait, what is the trend? Like, what is the thing that people are getting wrong?
Should I just say it?
Yeah.
I'm probably not even going to do it. I
think you should say it, and then you should give people an emoji or something to comment if they know, if they're listening and they see you post this.
So this is a more recent one. So I think it's like a wallpaper that people are creating for their phones, and they're spelling out the word love, but for the E they're putting 4 fingers instead of 3, so it's like their E has like 4 lines.
Oh yeah.
And then people in the comments like, you've done your E wrong. Like, it doesn't make sense. You can't read it like that. And I've seen so many people do it. And I was like, how is everyone getting that wrong? And then I'm realizing, no, they're not. They're doing that on purpose. Yeah.
That's quite good, actually.
And I was like, it's so like innocent as well to like,
honestly,
like
even
that.
the way you just said it is like super innocent. It's like, you're getting your E wrong. Like,
exactly. You can't really be mad at that. But yeah, that was like one I saw recently, and I was like, that. I think that's what made it twig in my head that, oh, because I saw like quite a few popular creators do it, and they all did the E wrong, and then I was like, nah, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You definitely, that's intentional. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder what would happen if I did that. Like, would people be like that, emotive in the comments? But then, yeah, I don't know if I'll do it. We'll see.
Okay,
Maybe we'll
I'm
see
gonna
that
keep
video.
an eye out anyway. I can't wait to see this. I've not even seen this trend. You know, I'm so behind on the trends. You know, this last weekend I got Farah. I got embarrassed badly.
What do you mean?
So have you seen the like give me the money trend?
Oh, they did it to you.
I hadn't seen it, and it was a big group, and we were standing in a room, and they all convinced me to go hard, like cheering for other people as well. And I proper went for it. I was like, "Give me the money!" And no one cheered.
If anyone, it would be you. That is so funny. Do you know what? I went through a period of this past week, like 3 days straight. That's all I was watching.
Really?
Like, I got so addicted
I don't know
to
how
it.
I missed it. Because, like, I was
my
like,
gosh.
everyone knew about the trend except me. And then they were explaining it. They were like, oh, haven't you seen this trend? Like, you have to just say, give me the money, and everyone cheers you. In my head, I was just like, that's a bit of a weird trend.
Random.
Yeah. But I'll do it because it's fun.
That is so funny.
And these people are my friends, if you're watching.
Yeah, they're so awkward. Like, they're hard to watch, some of them. So I can only imagine.
My one, if you'd seen my one, you would have, like, been swallowed back into the ground like I felt.
No. I bet the bigger the group, the worse it is as well, because they're all, oh, damn.
Yes, feel bad for me. See, this is what happens when you're a content creator. You still can't stay ahead of trends.
And I kept up with the trends. That was hilarious. Oh, wow. I really didn't think a content creator could get caught out with that, but
Here I am.
I guess, yeah, prime example. But things like that, I guess, there's trending stuff that you can do, and there's like that. I guess that's on just a more trending level, which always gets people like commenting and stuff. I don't know if they posted that or not, but if they did, like, you're guaranteed to get so much engagement for videos like that.
Yeah.
But it is because it's a trend going around that everyone laps them up. And I think that's the benefit of trends, is that because loads of other people are doing it too, people actively look to watch the next one and the next one because they get addicted to watching that particular trend and like seeing the different outcomes for different people. And they're fun to do, except for when you're the butt of the joke. That is not so fun. That's kind of a mean trend in some ways as well, like when they do it to the kids.
Yeah,
I feel so
when
bad.
they do it to the kids, it's bad, because obviously now I have seen some videos of it,
they're
and I'm
confused.
like, or like the old dads, I kind of feel bad for that as well.
Oh, yeah, same. Oh, and you can just tell they've come back from a long day of work in their like work clothes.
You can tell they're just kind of like, oh, for God's sake.
Taking one for the team.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So hopefully those were a couple of good beginner tips for you to be able to at least start content creation, or like start to build your confidence. And then once you build that confidence, you've got a little pyramid of how many trends to post versus how many non-trend videos to post, which is quite nice. But we're gonna probably have a lot more to say on this, so expect more content creation videos. And if you have any specific things you want to know about how to become a content creator, or like build a profile or anything like that, leave us a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or you can even send us an email or like comment on any of our posts on socials. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, don't forget to rate our podcast and follow and subscribe on YouTube. But that is us for now, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.